lives. When we were younger, they were read to us at bedtime. We see them in our favorite movies and TV shows. We relate to them, visualize them, and share them. Jesus understood this and chose to teach through stories. We've been shaped by stories our entire lives, but the stories told by Jesus were meant to give us life. His stories were called parables.
People loved by God, once again, good morning. Great to be with you in the Lord's house. And if you're tuning in with us, worshiping with us, welcome. Glad you're making this a part of your day as well. Today we're going to look at what is to me one of the most beautiful portraits in all of the Bible of the beauty of God's grace. I'm going to read you the story that Jesus told and then invite us to reflect on it a little bit together this morning. Luke chapter 15, Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything." That is officially rock bottom. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men.' So he got up and went to his father." Key words here. "But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of his servants and asked him what was going on. 'Your brother has come,' he replied, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound.' The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Right. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him? Not fair.' 'My son,' the father said, 'you are always with me, and everything I have is yours.' But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and it's found." We often call this the parable of the prodigal son, but it's really the parable of how many sons? There's 2 sons. And both of them, not just one of them, is lost, but they're lost in different ways. Let's start with the younger one. He demands his share of his father's estate, even though his father is still very much alive. It's almost as if the son is saying to the father, I wish you were dead. He takes the money, travels far from home, squanders the money in reckless living. He hits rock bottom, starving, empty stomach, alone. He longs to eat the food that the pigs are eating. I love my cat, Marie, but I have never looked at her food and thought, delicious. This is rock bottom. And it's where grace, the grace of God, meets him. This parable tells us that he comes to his senses and prepares a soliloquy, a speech, an apology about being unworthy and about maybe, just maybe, being able to be one of his father's hired men. Have you ever prepared an apology in advance? Kind of rehearsed it in your minds? Maybe it's just me. When I was in high school, my high school graduating class was a part of a senior prank that went wrong. I was not a part of it, just for the record. But when we all arrived at the school was not able to function that day as a school. So they put all the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors in one gym and the seniors in another gym. That was a mistake. The seniors all decided to hey, let's blow this pop stand, let's get out of here, and let's go to the town park and have a party. That I did go to. It was a beautiful day. We had a barbecue in the park. About 3 o'clock, I came to my senses, prepared a long apology, drove right to my dad's office, asked to see my dad, which is something I really never had done. My dad's like, what are you doing here? I was like, I have something to tell you about school today. It was a long apology. And unlike the father in Luke 15 who interrupts the apology with grace, my father, who I love dearly and will see again one day, let me say the whole apology. But I love the language that Jesus gives us here. While the son is still a long way off, meaning before he even had a chance to apologize, the father runs to the son. That is grace. You would expect the father to stand on the porch saying when that son comes home, if ever, he's going to get on his knees and apologize to me. No, this father does something a first century father would never do, which is run after his son. He throws his arm around him, and think about it. It's probably been a long time since that son had had a shower. But do you think the father cared? 0. He says, put a ring on his finger, put sandals on his feet. We're about to throw the biggest party this farm has ever seen. And why? Because look at the language. This son of mine was dead, but he's now alive. He was lost, and now he's found. This is a perfect portrait of the grace of God. Grace that does not wait for us to clean up our act before we are welcomed back by God the Father. No, while we are still a long way off, grace runs to us, to you, embraces you, takes you in, and restores you. And that tells me, and I pray it tells you, that this then is true. No one is ever too far gone for God. There is no sin so deep that God and his grace cannot reach. There is not a heart that is so hardened to the things of God that the grace of God and the Spirit cannot break through it. There is no past that is so broken that it cannot be redeemed by the grace of God. This is the good news of the grace of God, and it is for you and it's for me. But remember, this is a parable about how many sons? 2 sons. So there's more to the story. The older son is working in the field, hears the bass from the speakers in the party, and says, "What's going on?" He learns that his brother has come home and the father's throwing a party, and he is furious. So furious, in fact, that this story finds him outside of the party. He wants no part of going in and celebrating. So think about it. The father has to go out to him too. This must be one tired dad. First he had to chase the one son on the long road. Now he's got to leave the party and go chase the other son. He's got to go out and chase down this bitter, resentful older brother. This also is an act of grace. But the older brother isn't having it. He says, "All these years I've slaved for you, never disobeyed your orders." And in essence, what he's saying is, I've earned your love. I deserve more. But he's missing something key. He's missing that grace cannot be earned. If it were earned, it wouldn't be grace. It would be a paycheck. Instead, grace can only be received by those who understand they desperately need it. You see, this older brother has done everything right on the outside, at least he thinks so, but he's pretty far lost on the inside. In fact, he's just as lost as the younger brother is. His heart is so far from the heart of the Father. He's outside the house, not because he can't come in, but because he won't. He stands outside in pride, in self-righteousness, and in resentment. And that is really the great tragedy of this parable. Think about it like this. The younger son knew he didn't deserve grace, but the older son thought he didn't need it. And that's why he couldn't celebrate it. He missed the joy. He missed the feast. And Jesus tells the story because we can make the same mistake. When we start to think that we've earned God's grace or favor because our somewhat good behavior or somewhat moral lives, we lose the reality of the magnitude of the grace of God. And then instead of celebrating that God's grace has come to other people, we stand outside the party with arms folded in resentment. So I had a phenomenal vacation. It was great to be where I was. Thank you, Pastor Michael, for preaching last weekend in my stead. I flew into town on the first flight into Midway Airport Friday morning because my daughter's softball team hosts a tournament with about 148 teams, and all the dads are responsible for maintaining the fields. And if you're kids in the organization, you're responsible for 6 4-hour shifts. So I landed after waking up at 2 o'clock to rake fields from 7 a.m. On Friday till 8 o'clock Friday night, and then the same thing on Saturday. Do you feel bad for me? No, because you were on vacation, Pastor. Suck it up, right? But I'm raking the fields, and as I got into day 2, and some of the people started to drift away and come up with excuses, I started thinking, why am I the only one still here raking these fields? And I started crunching the numbers of how many hours each other had done. And I started to think, this is kind of what it's like sometimes at church. That if you do something and you're good at it, you get stuck doing it a lot. And so I'm thinking this whole time as I'm raking the field, I start to get resentful. And I'm like, oh, Jesus told a story about this. And oh yeah, you're preaching about it tomorrow. Right? I totally lost sight of everything that organization had done for my daughter and was totally fixed on everything I had done for this organization in the last 2 days. Think I missed something? Oh, yeah. So, dear friends, the Lord has a word for all of us. Don't stand outside the party. Come into the feast. Celebrate that the grace of God is given sometimes to those who don't deserve it, including us. The grace of God welcomes sinners and eats with them. So if you've been the younger son, hear this. You can always come home. And if you've been the older brother, or if you feel right now like you've got some older brother tendencies, recognize there's grace for you as well. The Father is outside calling, my daughter, my son, everything I have is yours. But we've got to celebrate. Let me close with a question. I don't know if you caught it in the story or not, but here's the question. Does the older son ever come into the party? Yes or no? We don't actually know. Luke leaves it, Jesus leaves it unresolved. And that's understood by many to be like, hey, Jesus tells this story to the Jewish leadership of the day, saying, hey, are you, Jewish leadership in the first century, going to come into the grace of God party or not? And it's up for them to decide. But it's also left for us to decide. Are we going to come in to the grace of God party or not? And the beauty is the feast is for us. It is for you. Amen.